name is Civello. I am a brown belt with Marcelo Garcia in New York City, and welcome to Sakura Jiu-Jitsu. This is my school. I've been training since I'm 22 years old. I am 38, and I'll be 39 in March. So how'd that happen? When I started Jiu-Jitsu, it was very much like the Wild West I always attribute it to. A lot of backdoor gyms that fit about 4 people. I was walking and met up with an old coach of mine when I did Taekwondo. He was teaching Jiu-Jitsu out of that school, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. And we caught up, and he had one of those gyms with 4 people in a basement. So that's why I started. It was more like catch wrestling. I believe he was training or working with Frank Shamrock's the younger one, right? So he had, submission wrestling, a Muay Thai guy, but that got me started in training, getting choked and armbarred and everything. From there, they had closed shortly after, rent problems. I ended up where'd I end up next? With Julio Rodriguez, who's now a Machado black belt. I was with him as a Prova belt. He was in Edgewater, if I'm correct. And I was with him for a while. He had a hard time. He was subleasing. That school eventually fell through. I ended up in West Orange in like the top of a gym this time, like in a spare room with 2 other guys. It was kind of rough. That kept going, A Hoyler brown belt, Armando Basalto. I trained with him for a while. He ended up closing school. I don't remember him even telling anybody. I remember I got hurt and I showed up to the school, was gutted, and that's it, just like that. And then I ended up with George Cernak in Denville. I was with him for about 8 years. In that 8 years, I trained with Ricardo Almeida for a while. I'd opened up a business down the shore. It was like an hour and so trip there and back. After Henzo's, I decided I wanted to take my sport jiu-jitsu to the next level, and people have disagreements and whatnot, so I ended up at Marcelo's. They took me in, and they've been my family and brought me in, and I've been with them ever since, and couldn't be happier. It was tough. I came, again, from the Henzo team. I switched over, and it's tough to switch over. A lot of people have opinions about it, but I always think you got to do what makes you happy. I think not finding happiness is like asking me that I should have stayed with my first girlfriend. It just didn't work. I had to date other people before I found my wife. So with Marcelo's, it was odd. I went in as a brown belt, which is hard in itself. I had blue belts tapping me at the time. It was a culture shock. I went from a pretty local school to like a world-class facility. So steep learning curve. There was many days when I left with my head down, thinking that this jiu-jitsu wasn't for me and it didn't work. And it was tough to get on track with those guys. They're so tough, and it's like a different world. And then how long have I been there? It's been a couple of years now. Too long to remember, I think. And becoming an associate, the first couple of months I had sat in the corner, not really talking to anybody. I was in kind of a bad place in my head and whatnot from the switch over and the change. And I remember having a conversation with Marcelo one day. We kind of warmed up to each other a little bit, and I had expressed interest in becoming an associate. And one of his biggest pet peeves about it was that I never sat down and had a conversation with him, and I'm like, well, you're Marcelo Garcia, But, since then, so much has changed. I mean, he's become my friend, he was my hero, he still is. I mean, how could he not be? But things changed a little bit, he's Marcelo now. He's my coach. We spend time together, and he let us become an associate school, and, his influence and ethics and training regimen and lifestyle, how he is as a person, it all falls in line with what I was looking for, and it trickles down to the students. And it's been really great. I think it's really helped me as a coach. It's helped my school. It's helped my students see a different level of success and what to go after, how to do that. I mean, Marcelo is the greatest of all time. It's hard to deny that. So he sets the example, and then it trickles down, I think, to everyone else. I would say to shop around, not by price, of course. I would say to go and see who strikes you as the right kind of fit. At my school, we're very competitive oriented. It's a tough room. We're very regimented. That doesn't work for everybody. And some people, there's schools that cater more to a hobby crowd. It's like a little less intense, I would say. I think it probably comes down to how you're feeling with everybody. How do you gel with the coaches? How do you feel with the training? Are you getting what you're looking for? And it's so hard to answer that. Like, what are you looking for? There's so many variables. If you're looking to fight MMA, then you probably wouldn't do good in just a jiu-jitsu academy. You would need the other disciplines. If you're just looking to take your jiu-jitsu to the next level, then maybe a school like Marcelo's would be great, or Marcelo Associate, more streamlined down sport setting. So, you got to feel it. You got to do what feels good, I think. Again, it's hard to say. I'm not being political about it. I just, for me, I love jiu-jitsu so much, so I think it's like a real treat for everybody nowadays to get to see all these different kinds of competing. And that's really what it comes down to. They're different kinds. So in a sports setting, me as a master's competitor, I don't have 10 minutes or 8 minutes, right, for brown belt. So, the setting is much more aggressive. How I came up, you took jiu-jitsu to fight, right? So any street fight, it's very rare that you're gonna defend yourself over a 5-minute period of time, but it is shorter. The aggression's there. You start from standing. You have to take them down. Points are awarded. I think the sports setting with the shorter time limits give it more of a realistic feel, I would say, to an extent. I'd say like any fight I've ever seen never went over 30 seconds, and that's a long fight. Outside. Then we take it into a setting where it's submission only and no time limit. Are the matches boring? It's hard to say. I mean, you're dealing with such a level, so sometimes that level cancels out. Sometimes, and maybe if there even is, it's a 30-minute time limit or a 20-minute, and nothing happens. To me, it's beautiful to see that. Everybody likes to finish, but it's a different crowd maybe that you're dealing with that would answer that question. If it's someone that's really into mixed martial arts, let's say, it's a little more exciting maybe to the average person, because everybody loves a big knockout, and that's an option. In jiu-jitsu, you're just searching out a submission. It can look chaotic to people, so I guess it depends on who you ask. For me, I'm happy to see it all. It's a great time to be in jiu-jitsu, I think. Yeah, of course. When I started, you took jiu-jitsu to fight, and that was it. I remember being surprised that there were tournaments. That's not why I started. I thought, I always joke around and say, I started because I was under the impression that I'd put on a Speedo one day and fight in like some no holds barred match, which I eventually got to do. But it's very for self-defense and for fighting. I think a lot of people that were in other martial arts were running to jiu-jitsu because it was something real, finally, and a different take. You could see like Hoist wasn't even taking a lot of damage. It was a takedown, mount, or the back and submission. It was really beautiful to watch, especially if you appreciated martial arts. So have things changed? Absolutely. Even just rule setting in MMA. There's gloves. They're kind of a pain in the butt, I think, for jiu-jitsu. I've fought with both. There's a difference. Jiu-jitsu felt a lot more natural without the gloves and without the rules. So that's an obstacle. The way teaching has changed, without a doubt, has become, I don't want to say lighter, because people are still producing these mega athletes. They're unbelievable to watch. But not everybody wants that, so some people want to use jiu-jitsu as a way just to work out, and that should be respected, Other people are using it to implement into MMA at like the highest level of competition, I believe. So things have changed a lot. I think nowadays where you would have gotten a lot of credit for those old stories, they're losing their value. If you were having like, I think you've posted a few fight matches, guys still continuing on that tradition of somebody coming into the school and and taking care of it. People are like shocked by that now, where it was a turn on maybe 20 years ago. So it's kind of hard sometimes as a teacher to adapt to those things, especially when you come from a time, and now that's not the case now. It's hard to relate sometimes, but you adjust and you start to see, I think, like how many people got turned away. How many people weren't like me that continued through like all that training and fighting. Because you were training jiu-jitsu in a fight setting. It wasn't like looking for submissions. You were sometimes getting punched and sometimes without gloves, just in your training. So it's changed a lot, but you adapt and you go on, and now we could see that person that maybe got turned away continue and become a great black belt, whereas in the beginning it was just kind of like weeding out the weak and who could make it, who had what it took to make it, and it was a little unfair looking back, because how many brilliant people would have maybe changed the game, so that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. I've just become a dad about a year and a half ago, and my son's changed a lot for me. And I think, again, you see how, like, when the older you get and you have these life-changing things happen to you, again, your stories lose their value. When I speak to another 40-year-old man, he's not impressed that I broke somebody's arm in an MMA match. They're turned off by it. They want to talk about like family and life and deeper things. So that's been hard to adjust to now. And then I'm chasing my black belt for the past, it's been a long time. But that's always been a goal of mine, and to get it from Marcelo is going to be a great feat, I think. Especially that I've been at it for so long. I still have goals of becoming a world champion at black belt, not even at brown belt. I've been chasing that for a while. I think I'm done fighting, but I'm not sure. We'll see. I go back and forth. Again, with my son, I want to, be there for him, and I don't think I want him to see me like that. Getting beat up. Who knows? Maybe I win, maybe I lose. You never know. But I think for the future, just becoming a better teacher, bringing my students up and having them achieve their goals, being a great dad, being a great husband to my wife, that's important to me, being a great friend. The game's changed a little bit for me, I think, as time's gone on. Longevity is on my mind a lot now. I don't know how long I can go at it at the rate I'm going at it for, so I'm just trying to get it in. Just had a knee surgery that's changed things a lot in my head. Again, I'm happy that I could walk upstairs now, and those things are important for my son. So, things change, but stay the same at the same time, I think. So, I just like my school to be successful and be what I believe it deserves to be, and get my black belt, of course, and just be a great person, better person. That's more important to me now than who's the baddest dude, which was like right at the center of my being for a long time.